and welcome to another Showgirl Story Time. I'm going to talk a little bit today about being a principal in Jubilee and also an understudy, because the path to a principal, of course, you have to be an understudy first. So when I first got into the show, I was a bluebell covered dancer, and then I transitioned to a nude dancer. I became a tall nude first and then a short nude. And during that 4 years of time between bluebell and principal, I was awarded a number of understudy spots. And now an understudy is similar to a swing, and I talked about swings in a different video. An understudy is someone who they've deemed ready to climb that ladder, I guess, or the staircase, or whatever you want to call it. And they have offered a spot for them to learn, so that when that principal goes out of town or is sick, then they can swing into that spot and get to be in the spotlight for that one number. So when I first started, the show was covered, and I was terrified to go topless, mostly because of the shame involved. But once I was in the show, it wasn't hard for me. So the first swing role I got to do was Bridesmaids, and it's the only costume I don't have a photo of me in, sadly. I have photos of my friends with me as I went up to do Bride. So there's a little number at the beginning of the finale that there was a little angel. She had angel wings and a little halo, and she was the bride, and the groom would sing to her, and it was just this cute little number. So that was my very first understudy spot. It usually was the first understudy spot of dancers that they were preparing or grooming to be principal dancers. So the first spot I learned was the bride, and it was taught to me by Linda Green. So that was a lot of fun, because she was the original, I believe she was the original bride, actually, back in when the show opened. So that was really cool, a really cool experience, and to learn it from the person who learned it from the choreographer. So that was special to me. And so once I learned Bridesmaids, and they saw that I was ready to be a topless dancer, then they gave me the bride. And so when they give it to you, then they can call you at any time and say, okay, you're doing bride tonight. Usually I found out during notes, which was about 30 minutes before the show. After I learned bride, I was then, I believe, awarded a partner spot. I'll be talking about my partner, Andrew, because we were literally made for each other as far as dancing partners. Both long, beautiful limbs, exotic looks, and they were basically grooming the both of us to become the next principal couple, which was really exciting. That's kind of how it just took 4 years, that's all. So we were awarded Love, which is this cute little adagio between two lovers in the Samson and Delilah story. It's basically there to change sets. That's pretty much the only reason Love was there, but it was pretty and beautiful, and we basically got to choreograph our own pas de deux, and with all the lifts and things. So that was a lot of fun. We got to test out some different lifts and what worked with my costume. My costume was made for me, which was really, really exciting. And yeah, so being an understudy was quite an honor and exciting, because they were telling you, okay, you're on the track. And so I did a number of understudy spots. I didn't understudy all of the roles before I was promoted to principal dancer. Delilah was one of them that I did not learn until after I was promoted. What was another one? I never learned. The only principal spot out of the whole show that I never did was the Mrs. Kent, which was the drunk lady in Titanic. And I never got to do that one, which is fine, because it was for a more mature performer, and I was such a baby that it just wasn't for me. But everything else I had learned, I hadn't learned white disco. So that's a whole other story that I talk about and I think I've already talked about, maybe not. Look for the video about my favorite number in the show, disco. So these roles were just awarded just randomly. There didn't seem to be any logic to them at all. And the more I got to do when one of the principals was out of town. So if one of the principals decided to take a few days off, then I could do her roles for almost that whole time, and I got paid extra for it. I think it was $8 per number. So if I got to do opening, and then disco, and then love, and then S&M, and dollies, and then bride, that's 6 numbers, that's $50 extra a show almost that I was making, which was fantastic, and I loved it. So that was a cool thing about being an understudy, is that you got a nice pay bump. And then the swings would swing into your regular spot, and you would get to swing into the principal spot. So that was being an understudy. And then by the time I had auditioned, I believe 7 times to be a principal dancer. Every 6 months, I kept putting my little act together, and I did a little act. And the last act I did was my infamous fan dance. I borrowed a feather fan from the wardrobe, and I got to do this beautiful number. And some people have seen it on the burlesque stage with my Gazella's costume. So I was finally promoted to principal with my partner Andrew, and then the roles were divvied out between the 4 principals that were contracted. And so becoming a principal was, of course, amazing. I was on stage less, but I was in the spotlight. I was one of the front girls in the spotlight, and I got to wear the coolest costumes. So, in my opinion, they were the coolest. So, the principals were just the lead dancers, and they worked their butts off to get there, and it was an honor and a privilege to be a principal dancer in Jubilee. And I was happy that I got to spend 6 months in the dressing room with Linda Green before she retired. So that was really cool. Thank you for listening to my story about understudies and principals in Jubilee. If you are more curious about the Showgirl life, I have a podcast I just launched. It's called Showgirl's Life Podcast, and you can access it from my website, showgirls.life/podcast. All the episodes will be listed there along with show notes and a couple of photos. I'm having special guests tell me how it was like to be a showgirl through their own eyes. It's a beautiful thing. So go have a listen, and I'll see you next time. Bye.